Hey guys, welcome back to the studio. Brian, aka BloodShot Airbrushing, and I know, it's been a while, guys. I haven't uploaded in a little bit. I've been working, plus a long weekend. Even a guy like me has to take a break every now and then, and this YouTube university, man, it's become a second job, I tell ya. Getting gray hairs by the day. Alright, guys, it ain't that bad. But, in the midst of it, in the midst of the project that you probably saw last video, customer has come by. He's seen it at this stage. A lot of these parts are ready to go for clear. But I held off on one of them because it's been a while, guys, since I did a beginner's video, and I know a lot of you guys have been asking, Ryan, color. I know it's pretty vague, and there's a lot to tackle. We're just going to get into some basics today, guys, but I can't leave you hanging, my airbrush wielding warriors. We must soldier on. So, with that being said, let's get on over here. I'm going to flip you around. You can check out the latest project that you'll never see tutorials on because I can't record it all, guys. But gas tank is coming on down the line, and I saved that one just for you guys. Alright, guys. Check it out. Oh yeah, guys. Couple snake eyes. And we've got the man himself, Big Daddy Death, and his little buddy. Wouldn't you love to meet those two in a dark alley? Snake eyes. Alright, guys, I know there isn't a whole heck of a lot of color on this project, but there's enough to where I figured I should do a video. My phone should focus. That's better. And guys, so what I'll typically do is I'll paint these things black and white and then just do some transparent color. So the rear fender, and then we got the front fender, we got the two side covers, and then I saved the air cleaner cover. And so, here is the one, guys. And we're going to get to this a little later, but we've got some glowing eyes to tackle. We've got the interior of the snake's mouth, the snake's eyes, and just a little tiny bit of tone to the body of the snake itself. But I'm going to make you wait for that one, guys. Alright, first let's clean up this mess. And let's get on with today's lesson. Alright, guys. Oh, the memories. Oh, the memories. That's where I bent my needle. Check that video out. If you guys need to fix some bent needles, I got you covered. And yes. Yes. This was some of our very first troubleshooting, guys. Some dots, some fades, line work, and some three-dimensional shapes. 18101? Yeah, right. Apparently I'm signing these things now. Pretty funny, pretty funny. Alright, guys. Let me bring you in a little closer. Alright, guys, and as you can see, I have quite a variety of different colors A lot of different makes, a lot of different brands, guys. As long as it's water-based acrylic, I love it. And that's what I tend to use for the majority of my time. Now, these down here are all inks. Alright guys, so when we're looking at the auto airs and the likes, these are more of a pigment based paint, whereas the inks are more of a dye. So awesome transparency out of the inks, guys. Very rich tones, but not very good for covering, whereas some of your opaque colors are great for coverage. And sometimes you can thin them down pretty good for transparent colors as well, guys. I also do use some one-shot paints from time to time. And I do have back in here some of my urethanes, which are automotive colors. Most of them are candies and pearls and metal flakes. Mostly the big old metal flakes. They just don't have those in the water-based paints. And the candies, guys. The candies that they do make in the water-based really don't compare to the candies that they make in the urethanes. And they've always been my go-to, guys. Alright, let's grab some of our primary and secondary colors. Alright. For the most part, actually, this is a premix. So this is not what was originally in this bottle. So this is an opaque purple that I've pre-thinned. So that should do it. That should do it. We've got 3 transparents, 3 opaques. Rock and roll. And I almost forgot, guys. You can't have colors without the shades. The white and black. Opaque black. This was an opaque white that I've pre-thinned. Now, guys, when working with my colors, I like to work much in the way of a rainbow, going lightest to darkest depending on which direction I am going in the color spectrum. So today we can go yellow to purple and keep going. Or we can go yellow to red and keep going. So we're just gonna right now do a couple fades. And after that, we'll get into some color blends. Working with an opaque. Now, this is great paint if you need to cover a surface and cover it quickly. So, for the sake of keeping this relegated to a small area, and one thing I always recommend doing, guys, is having a sheet of paper next to you that you can just spray through the brush to make sure you're getting the desired consistency. This is where you get the nice coverage power. Alright kids, jolt that down in the old brain box. Opaque paints are made for coverage. Thin it out a bit. No real science to thinning it out, guys. Thin it out till it's the consistency you're looking for. Do some tests. I like to blow back to help mix it. I always use a paintbrush, guys. I like to keep one paintbrush for my darker colors, one paintbrush for my whites and lighter colors. Still not as transparent as I want. Now, some colors have tougher pigments than others. These little soldiers don't like to dissipate, so they stick together, and you may find you gotta thin them out quite a bit. Alright, now it's mixed, and now we're getting a consistency that I'm happy with. Alright kids, gather around and look and listen carefully. So the top line, you can see the speckle pattern of the opaque paint, and the bottom is where we've thinned it out for a nice transition. So now, once you've got it thinned out, not that you even really need that anymore because you're not pushing your paint past that way, you're just pushing your paint this way. It's good to actually move your airbrush to be pointing in the direction of your fade. It's a little hard for a lefty right now. And just ever so gently pull it out. And that gives you a nice transition, guys, working from an opaque to a transparent. Now I doubled that space with my transparent paint that I did cover with my opaque paint. And you can just keep working it until you're happy with that transition. Keep going darker if you want to keep going darker, but that's how you're going to get a nice fade. Now, let's say you didn't want to fade into white, but you had a white face and you wanted to fade into black. So let's grab another opaque color with some coverage, some covering power. And not to beat it into your skulls, I know I say it often, but 50-50 rules, guys. When you're doing solid colors, every pass you do should overlap the previous pass by 80%. There we go. So I've laid that down as an opaque base, and I got that as bright as I could. Alright guys, 2 passes. If you need to do a couple more, do a couple more. Now let's add some black. Alright, now I want a nice transition, so I'm not going to use my opaque black out of the bottle. I'm going to thin it out over half, guys. And let's see how that sprays for me. That's pretty nice. Not too heavy of a dot pattern. But for black, that's about as good as I'm gonna get. Alright, so now we're just gonna fade that black into the orange, starting on one edge. Hitting it a little heavier. Slowly pulling it. As I'm pulling it in this direction, I'm also pulling it away. And this is how fades are achieved. Building it up darker if you want to build it up darker, and then slowly pulling it away. Alright guys, so there you go. Fade a color into light using a light base. Fading a color into black using a light base. It's probably a good idea to show you guys some black on top of black. Blacker than Vanta Black, the world's darkest material, made from carbon nanotubes, absorbs 99.96% of the light. Science. This time, straight out the bottle. I'm not thinning it at all. I need some more covering power. Just not getting it with that thinned out black. And there we go. That's more like it. But seriously, could you imagine if you got your hands on some of that Vanta Black? Oh, the possibilities. What would you do? Alright, now here's the thing that plagues me daily, guys. Working over black with water-based paints. Doesn't even matter, guys, if you're using an opaque. You just never get that color up to its brightest possible potential, guys. And you'll see as we go on here. No matter how many times I hit that, guys, it just won't get any brighter. This will be too transparent. Let me grab an opaque white. Opaque. And for the most part, guys, you should be able to spray these colors straight out the bottle. There are some opaque colors that are a little too thick, and you will have to thin them out somewhat. And trial and error, guys, that's the only way to find out. You don't know if you don't try. Build that white back up. Now you may have to thin it out to do the rest of your fade to make sure it's a nice transition. So now I can easily skate this paint, but I'm not pulling back on that trigger, guys. I am barely pulling back from a distance and ever so lightly bringing that fade on down. Alright, now, as you guys saw, I did a bunch of passes with red, so many that it got wet and it started to peel up when I put my stencil over top of it. Should have taken a bit more time and let that dry before I went over it. Let that be a lesson to you. So I'm going to hit both those areas. So this is just going to get more red. But guys, it's not going to get any brighter. And look at the difference. So this is why I always recommend, if you're going on black and you need to do colors, build your whites up first. It gets worse when you start working with yellows, oranges. Yellows start to turn green, oranges start to turn brown. Build up your whites first, guys. You can always go back in with black and tone it back if you got it too bright. You can always use the blue, purple, brown mixture and tone it back quite nicely. And let's get into that. So now, guys, I'm going to put in what is my mixture of 5 drops brown, 1 drop blue, 1 drop purple. And I just mix it up in one of these little bottles, so I've got it at handy in a vast supply. And because we're coming up to me being oblivious with the camera angle, we're just going to speed this up and fly on by. So have a look, guys. And as you can see, guys, the top one with the thinned out black still has that speckle pattern where I use the blue, purple, brown mixture, guys. A nice transition, and you can still get it as black as you need. And there's our red tones, guys. So as you see, this red would never get as bright as that. It just won't happen. Build up your whites first, and that's how you get rich colors. Rich colors. Now let's say you're on black and you wanted to fade into white. You want a color that fades into white. So much like before, guys, you just build up your whites, but now you're going to build them up heavy. Using an opaque white. Alright, guys, and once again, straight out the bottle, I am using the thickness of the opaque paint to my advantage to get this covered relatively quickly, guys. Build up your whites as bright as you can get them, guys. I could probably do a couple more passes on that and build it up even brighter. But for the sake of keeping this a quick little tutorial, guys, that'll do. Now, transparent blue. We're going to use indigo blue. Now, I'm even going to thin this out a little bit, guys, so I get a uber transparent color. Not just transparent, uber transparent. Alright. Now we're going to want to build it up slowly, guys, especially when you're working with these uber transparent paints, guys. And what you saw there is just a little glitch in the matrix. Nah, it's just me taking a quick little pause as I'm going to make sure that my paint isn't getting too wet and that I'm liking the buildup as I go. And there you have it. One more fade, working over top of black, going into white using a transparent blue. That was a pretty good recap. Alright guys, now let's get into the spectrum of colors. And guys, rainbows are there for a reason. The refraction of colors happens very specifically for a very specific reason. And if you haven't guessed, guys, it's because some colors blend into other colors and some just don't, guys. It just ain't gonna work. And when you're working with paints and pigments, this is where you can actually fall into getting your colors to look muddy, grainy, gritty, not a nice smooth transition. And in my experience, it is typically because I have chosen, well, two colors, trying to blend one into one another, and it just doesn't go, guys. Sometimes they need a medium tone to bring them together. Sometimes they need two. Sometimes they need two or three. What you saw me do back on this one, guys, I went from yellow and just added a little bit of orange into my yellow, and that gave me a medium tone to go back into the orange. Now, I could have just went yellow straight to orange, but I have found that because yellow is such a bright color, orange does have quite a bit of opaqueness to it, that it is sometimes best to do a bit of a transition color prior to going in with a straight orange. Now, not many other colors I found have this issue, just because yellow is, well, so light. So light. And now going in with a straight red, I think we're going to probably speed this up and blast through this. But you guys see how I build it up. A lot of the time, guys, when I'm working with the real transparent paints, just a little FYI for the brain box, probably a third of the time that I am applying air to my project, I have the paint, the trigger, pressed all the way forward and no paint is coming out. And that just helps to dry that paint, especially the super thin stuff. You know, put a pass of paint on and then just do a pass of air, no paint, and that dries everything up and you can go on to the next pass. It's something, again, years of playing with an airbrush, I found if you try to build these colors up, transparent colors especially, try to build them up too quickly and they will skate and bleed and go all over the place. So take it from me, guys. Someone who's been there, who's fought the battle and came out victorious. Alright guys, and here is just a quick little demonstration, guys. I'm going to oversaturate this blue and pull it into some of these other colors, and now you can kind of see that muddiness and the graininess that is occurring due to an improper blend of colors, guys. It's that simple. Colors blend, but you gotta make sure you're blending into the right color. He needs to be next to his neighbor. As I'm spewing all this to you guys, I have to reiterate, there's exceptions to every rule. Just because I say lightest to darkest, this is what typically works best, I've come to accept that there is no such thing as a sure thing. Alright? Alright, so that's playing with the color wheel, the color spectrum, as is. But let's say you wanted to blend like two obscure colors together, like hot pink and green. Okay, guys. Well, let's go through it. So, lightest to darkest, I'm going to say hot pink is lighter than green. You might disagree, but either way, for this lesson, this is what we're going to do. Alright guys, so I'll start with my hot pink. I know there's a little bit of red there, try to avoid that. So starting with my hot pink. And blend her out. Go darker on this side, blend her in this way. Alright guys, nice blend. Now let's grab some green. Hey, I'm just blending paint. This should work, right? No problems. No problemo. Well. Nice and heavy on this side, blending my way in. And what is happening? It's a nice transparent layer of paint, but it's going almost off brown, yellowy brown. Not a very nice color. Now, if I were to even go closer transition, so let's say we're trying to fade this in a smaller area, now you can really start to see that brown that it's off-putting. Here is the trick, guys. Figure out on your color wheel what would be the in-between color of pink. Pink would be somewhere, I guess it'd be around here, pink, purple, and green. So in between those two, I'm going to say yellow is my medium tone. So what I'm going to do, guys, not even necessarily as a fade, I'm just going to blast in a bit of yellow. Now, working lightest to darkest, grab your pink and move your pink on in there. Save a bit of a buffer zone. And now you've got a nice fade without getting those muddy tones, right guys? Muddy tones when you're bringing the inappropriate color over top of something that just doesn't blend. It gets grainy, it gets muddy. So use your middle tones, guys. Alright guys, and with that, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little something. This was too much video to get all done in one, so I chopped her in half, and we will get into the real world applications on the air cleaner cover for the motorbike in part 2. So stick around for that, guys. That'll drop in a day or two once I get the editing all figured out. And until then, guys, as always, like, follow, subscribe. Thanks for coming along for the ride, and drop me a line if you have any questions. I'm always here to help out my fellow soldiers. Cheers.